Let me introduce my two friends, Alisha and Neelam. Alisha founded Not My Style, and she'll talk to you about it. It's a very, very cool app. If you want sustainable fashion brands on the high street, Alisha is where you should go to. She'll tell you how she founded it, why she did it. And then we have Neelam from super successful entrepreneur, founded Mother Earth. Future Group bought that a few years ago, Dow Industry Foundation. And the project we work with her on is called Creative Millions, and we love the work because it's about empowering and connecting the grassroots artisan to the fashion supply chain directly. And she will talk to you about how we're doing this with her.
Thank you. Abba, thank you so much for inviting us to be here today. And thank you to all of you for coming. I feel like the brain power and talent in this room is so amazing that I don't want to talk for too long because I really want to hear what all of you have to say. But what we want to do today is talk about kind of positive solutions, innovative solutions, and exciting things that are happening that are, in some cases, bypassing traditional market routes altogether. In other cases, figuring out new and better ways to work through them to create the empowerment of women.
But I just want to put two key words here before I launch into my story. I think it's really clear to all of us that whatever we do from now on has to be disruptive and it has to be about scale.
Yes.
So these are the two key things that kind of dominate whatever we are trying to do now. I started my career, I'm an industrial designer from National Institute of Design. So I always did product design, and I went to the villages. I went to very, very remote villages in India 30 years ago. Lived with tribal artisans very, very closely, worked with them in their mud huts. So therefore, any supply chain I talk of or we talk of is always last mile. Yeah, because that's our DNA, right? And what we are seeing in India today is that by 2050, yeah, there are still 800 million people in India going to be dependent on farming by 2050. And farming is not profitable. So when we talk about women's empowerment, violence against women, these topics are deeply connected to women earning better. The voice of the woman in the family is heard. She can negotiate better. And this is all, I'm putting in a nutshell. I don't want to go back into my story, what I did in the villages and all of that. I'll go back to that, but it's really clear to us. And if she starts earning better, then she puts more into the nutrition of the child. She puts more into being able to negotiate better with her husband, and sexual violence and domestic violence, everything, you see huge improvements in that, right? So that roughly is where we come from, and which is why we launched Creative Million. So we said that we've been looking at these solutions in a very small fashion, but we really need to start thinking scale. So we took on this mandate of doing Creative Million, which is putting 1 million women, about 80% will be women, 20%, 30% will obviously be men. It's very clear. We have to take the men along with the women. There's no question of being exclusive in any way. And it's a self-owned value chain. I think that's what's very critical about our work. So India and globally, there's a huge cooperative movement. But Indian cooperative movement kind of died out post maybe Amul. Amul is a brand owned by farmers. It's at $4 billion in revenue, and it's owned by farmers. 85% of that $4 billion goes down to the farmer. So we are now talk about Creative Million being the Amul of creative manufacturing, where apparel has a huge role to play. And that's why it's disruptive. So we are saying women in this sector, they have their self-owned producer organizations. They manufacture. Not only are they globally socially compliant, but they also get all the profits. They own these enterprises, right? So that's what Creative Million is about. It's a wage plus model. Yeah, it's not just about wage. It's also about dividends, right? So that's how Creative Million is different.
I think the question of scale is one that's really important and on a lot of people's minds a lot, because it seems like even as sustainable fashion and more ethical modes of production are more in the news, and the market is growing, it still seems so small. I think from the consumer side, there's a number of barriers that stop people from being able to shop more ethically. We did a number of focus groups when we were designing Not My Style, and we heard that they really want to shop ethically, but it has to be incredibly convenient as convenient as shopping on the high street. And they want the kind of most information that they could possibly have in like 30 seconds or less. So you have incredibly demanding consumers, I think, and the accessibility of the market, how you purchase ethical fashion, the availability kind of to you, is, I think on the consumer side, that's limited the scale in terms of that.
See, we've had a very interesting experience with IKEA. Yeah, it's a global retailer. They have started a line called Next Generation, and it started by IKEA Commercial. Yeah? So I give this as an example to a lot of global brands that one, CSR and your commercial businesses, see the biggest value a lot of large retailers can bring to the table is market access to socially compliant value chains, right? So there are two ways that brands do it. One is brands go down and they work hard on building social compliance amongst their suppliers. And the second, which I think is our duty, we've got to really leap up and tell them, look, here we are. We've got this fantastically efficient value chain in place, and it's ethical and it's compliant and it's also giving dividends to the women, and it's not just doing economic empowerment, it's also doing social empowerment. I think when brands talk about a lot of social compliances and they talk about above minimum wage, etc., and good working conditions, very often what's being missed is when the woman goes back home, very often her entire wage is just taken by the man. And she has really no say in its spend. So in our IKEA journey, what we've learned is that IKEA, through its commercial vertical, has built out a line and start small. Yeah. So answering to your barriers to scale, I believe it's very important that all of us work closely with large retail brands and their CSR divisions and tell them that your CSR and your brand work, if somehow, because we're having very detailed talks with CNA right now on that CNA is doing so much, CNA Foundation is doing so much with Fabric for Change, with Ashoka and the Ashoka Globalizer work. And we are saying one of the biggest values you can add is how will you connect all these innovations in value chain with your purchase departments.
I sat and had to think about the kind of trends that I've been seeing and would love to get your feedback on them, your own trends, and to talk about one big one that I think is affecting across business. So one of the first things, my friend Kate here very kindly took me with her to Decoded Fashion, which is a kind of fashion tech conference, completely commercial. There was almost nothing about supply chain or ethics there, but it was extremely interesting. And around the room, they had all of these startups pitching their ideas for investment. And there were like 4 or 5 different ones that were focused on virtual fitting rooms. So it's come a long way since like a 2-dimensional picture of yourself that you can put clothes on. These can show you, they scan your body and all your measurements. They can show you the fit of what a different size would be if you order it. So I think that tech will make it easier to buy ethical. So many fantastic producers do not have bricks and mortar stores and they only sell online. And I think from a pure vanity perspective, you know, I hate buying things online. I love to see how they look before I buy them. And to be able to do that is going to be a pretty amazing thing. So that was one. I think blockchain is going to have a huge impact. We've got Provenance here, one of my favorite companies, who maybe can talk a little bit in the questions about what they do. But the technology to allow you to trace something you buy down to the seed where it was grown, it exists and is continuing to grow. I don't think that the appetite for transparency is necessarily caught up with that yet, and I think that's quite an interesting trend. So as the tech has been developed, I don't think there's enough of that. I don't think brands are sharing it enough, and I don't think consumers are asking for it enough.
Why are we pushing creative manufacturing? Because creative manufacturing is defined as a form of manufacturing where there are quick changes in design that are needed. Like a Foxconn Apple phone, you can have a die and you can churn out 1 million phones, right?
Right.
But an apparel garment, maximum, even your largest brands, will want 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 pieces. That's it. And then it changes because design moves fast, right? So it's an incredible opportunity for hand-related work. So the women are using machines, but there is a woman operator. Nobody till today is talking about a fully automated fashion factory. Nobody.
Thank you. Turn it over to you, Abba.
Thank you. Wow.